Yo, America, let's talk sports. We love our games, right? Football, basketball, baseball, they're more than just entertainment. But what if I told you that this passion, this national unity, has sometimes been used as a tool to distract us from the real issues happening off the field? How many times have you been glued to a game only to find out later that some shady political maneuver went down while you were cheering? It's like a magician using misdirection. This isn't a new trick either. Let's rewind the clock and look at some examples from our history, starting with the Jim Crow era. Let's rewind back to the Jim Crow era. This was a time when segregation was the law of the land, especially in the South. Black people were treated as second-class citizens, denied basic rights, and subjected to horrific violence. Major sporting events often coincided with some of the most egregious acts of racism. Picture this, a big game is happening. Everyone's hyped, emotions are running high. Meanwhile, in the background, lawmakers are quietly passing discriminatory laws. These laws further marginalize black communities, limiting their access to education, voting, and even basic human dignity. Why do this during a big game? Because it's the perfect distraction. People are too caught up in the excitement to notice, let alone protest. Sometimes the timing of these games was used to overshadow acts of racial violence. The use of sports as a distraction during the Jim Crow era wasn't just a coincidence. It was a deliberate tactic used to maintain a system of racial oppression. By diverting attention away from the realities of segregation and violence, those in power could continue to enforce their discriminatory policies without facing significant opposition. Imagine being a black person during this time. You're excited about the game, but you also know that your community is suffering. You see the injustices happening around you, but the nation seems oblivious, caught up in the thrill of the game.
This manipulation of sports wasn't just limited to distracting from political events. Black athletes were often excluded from white leagues, forced to compete in segregated environments with fewer resources and opportunities. This segregation in sports mirrored the segregation in society, reinforcing the idea that black people were inferior and undeserving of equal treatment.
The modern arena politics and playbooks collide. Now you might be thinking, okay, that was messed up, but that was a long time ago, right? Hold up. This playbook of distraction didn't disappear with the civil rights movement. It's still being used today, often in more subtle ways. Think about the Trump era. Remember when he'd tweet something outrageous, some inflammatory statement designed to divide and conquer, and it would always seem to happen during a big game or some other major cultural event? Coincidence? I think not. Or how about when he pardoned Joe Arpaio, the sheriff notorious for his racial profiling tactics? That pardon dropped on a Friday night during a hurricane, when most people were glued to the news, worried about the storm. Classic misdirection. These aren't just isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern, a deliberate strategy to exploit our love of spectacle, our need to be entertained, to push through harmful agendas while we're not paying attention. The vice president and the court, a slam dunk for injustice. Now it's not just about presidents, let's talk about Kamala Harris for a second. Remember when she was Attorney General of California? Her office fought to uphold the convictions of people who were later exonerated by DNA evidence. One of those cases involved Kevin Cooper, a black man sentenced to death for a crime he maintains he didn't commit. Despite mounting evidence of his innocence, Harris's office resisted calls for further investigation. Now connect the dots. During Harris's time as AG, the Golden State Warriors were absolutely killing it. Steph Curry was draining threes, the team was winning championships, and California was caught up in basketball fever. It's not to say that Harris deliberately used the Warriors' success to overshadow the Cooper case, but it highlights how our obsession with sports can sometimes blind us to crucial issues of justice and equality. It's a reminder that even those we perceive as progressive leaders can sometimes be complicit in systems that perpetuate harm, especially when the spotlight is elsewhere. The game goes on, unmasking the power play. So, what's the takeaway here? It's not about demonizing sports or saying we shouldn't enjoy them. It's about recognizing that our passion for the game can be exploited, used to manipulate and distract us from what's really going on. We need to be more aware, more critical. Don't let the excitement of the game blind you to the realities happening off the field. Pay attention to the timing of political events. Question everything. Hold our leaders accountable, even when our team is winning. The next time you're caught up in a nail-biting game, remember that there's a whole world outside the stadium. Don't let the cheers drown out the voices fighting for justice and equality. The game goes on, but so does the fight for a more just and equitable society. Stay woke, America.